Okay, guys, hope that was a helpful time. And I want to talk to you a little bit now about the skills of being an authority, the right kind of authority, the authority that's in the, oh, by the way, the fourth issue there was the rights of the fourth stance was to be an adult. See, we had child, we had adolescent. A child's not an adult, an adolescent's not an adult, a parent's not really adult because they're a overgrown child. But an adult is an adult who has a proper idea of authority, and they've gone through the childhood dependency, they've gone through a healthy adolescence, and they've given up the parent role. That's what you're supposed to be. That's how you lead people, that's how you have a mission for life, and all these good things. Let's talk about the skills involved. First off, one thing leaders who are adults is they develop their talents. In other words, you've got things you can do better than anybody, not because you're any better or cooler than anybody else, because God made it that way. He gave everybody gifts and talents. There are things you can do, maybe in the right brain kind of world where it's artistic and creative and spontaneous and very relational. Maybe it's more technical and really interesting and intricate in a number of sorts of ways, but you've got talents. Here's the problem though. Because you have a talent doesn't mean it's developed. If you gave me a choice of someone who was highly talented and kind of sat on their laurels and someone who was mediumly talented, I'm not even sure mediumly is a word, but we'll go with that. Someone who was mediumly talented and worked hard, I would take that second person because they're into development. And my experience is, I mean, you got to have some talent to begin with, but a person who is serious about developing talents does better. That's why I always tell everybody I'm working with, if you're good at something, you've got to find somebody better. I mean, maybe you're the best in the world. There's somebody who's close to you. Go to the seminars. Read the books. Go to the weekend things. Get on the websites. Have conversations. I spent a lot of my time, both as a psychologist and as a business person, driving to different kind of seminars and weekend things and spending all this money because I want to develop my talents. So don't ever be at rest. There is no at rest. When you're at rest, you die, like they say. I was talking to Ken Blanchard about this one time. You probably know who Ken Blanchard is, the guy who wrote all the great books, 1 Minute Manager and so forth and so on. He's also a fellow of the Townsend Institute. And I said, tell me about retirement because, everybody's going to. He says, I'm not going to. I said, what do you mean? He says, I'm a disciple of, I was influenced by Zig Ziglar, which you may remember Zig Ziglar, a great speaking, inspirational guy from way back, success kind of a guy. He says, Ziglar told me, you don't see retirement in the Bible. What you see is refire. He says, I'm going to refire. Well, you need to be developing your talents and refiring all the way until the time you're dead and gone. So you have a responsibility. Just because you're getting a lot of respect and you do well and you feel good about it doesn't mean you should not be doing that. I am continually getting continuing education and coaching, and I plan to be doing the rest of my life, and I would want you to too. And I think it's just good for all of us. I mean, it's kind of what you're doing here at TLP, really. You're developing talents that maybe are a bit undeveloped, or maybe you didn't know about them, but keep developing them. The second one is appreciate mystery. What you find out is that the great leaders don't live in a black and white world. They live in a world and they're comfortable with the grays. Now, that's not to say there aren't blacks and whites. Certainly there are blacks and whites. I mean, gravity is a black and white. I can't fight gravity, right? I can't say I don't believe in gravity, or I can't say to somebody else, gravity is good for you, but it's not good for me. Appreciate it's good for you. Gravity's gravity. And there are blacks and whites, and that's why the Bible exists, to give us clear rules about love and God and relationship and how we're supposed to deal with Him and each other and how to have a good life. But you know what? There are grays in this world too. Every time I read Ecclesiastes, I see grays. Every time I look at successful people who aren't freaked out because there's not a black or white. See, I always think that person is going to go somewhere or is going somewhere. You see, you're going to get hit with scenarios that are very, very complex, and nobody has an answer for them, and you've got to make the call. I've been in that situation as a leader so many times, maybe you have too, and the good leaders are the ones that go, I can find the best answer here. I'll give you a classic example of this. I was working in the firm where, very successful firm, I think they were in the retail space, and I always like to attend the executive meetings to find out where the action is and how the team is engaging and all that and where the dynamics are. And the CEO was a great, great leader. Loved working with him. And marketing had an idea that they wanted to, I don't know what it was, spend all this money on, I think, painting their buildings a different color because it was going to say something about, because they had a lot of property, said something about who they were as a brand. Just really expensive, but really creative. And then, you know, as these meetings go, marketing goes first and finance goes second because nothing would ever get done otherwise, right? So finance comes up, and what does finance say? Well, CFO, as everybody knows, would say we can't afford it. Not in the budget, doesn't fit. And so then they're kind of going back and forth. And I'm watching the CEO because he's the shot caller here. And, you know, marketing is saying you don't have the vision, and finance is saying you're out of control and all this. And the CEO said, okay, T.O. here, he said, I'm going to think about this. And the team kind of stopped and said, what do you mean? He said, well, there's a lot of stuff here. I can see both points here. I'm going to think about this. And they said, when are you going to know? He says, I don't know. And he said, but I'll tell you when I know what I know. In other words, he appreciated the mystery of these two dynamics, and he just wanted to sleep on it and noodle on it. This is what the higher level ones do. The lower level ones, they feel this pressure to be the leader and make a call like, okay, we'll go to marketing or we'll go to finance, or can we meet in the middle? He just wanted to think about it. And I love that because I could see his people being frustrated. They wanted him to be God to them and give them the answer from on high so that they did not have to deal with the tension. They didn't have to deal with the tension of this question. And he was saying, I'm dealing with tension. I got two opposing ideas here. I'm dealing with tension. You got to deal with the tension with tension too. If you don't appreciate mystery with your people, you regress them. You turn them into dependent children. So you appreciate mystery and let them. Okay, moral, the end of chapter of the story. A couple of days later, he had an idea, and it did involve spending more money than people thought he should on a marketing piece of it. It was just not as much as they wanted. But the finance guy got it. He got the vision, and they were very successful in this tactic that led their strategic moves. So don't be afraid of the grays. Give yourself some time. Think about it. Noodle. Write about it. Take a bike ride. Pray about it. And mystery will keep you from being this rigid, obsessive, anal retentive person who really gets in a box. And that's not big picture leadership. Third part, challenge the authorities. Remember the adolescent piece? Good leaders know how to say to their stakeholders and their stockholders and their owners and their customers, they need to say, yeah, I don't see it that way. I don't think this is the right thing. And oh my gosh, you should see the health that comes into businesses when this happens, in organizations, and when this happens, when someone in authority will challenge the authority. Now, if you're in a situation, you might be thinking this, yeah, but if I said that my boss, I'd be on the street. Well, then you've got a different problem. It doesn't mean the system is wrong. It means you have an unhealthy organization. We have different workarounds for that, such as you might have to, if you have an unhealthy organization that can't be confronted, that doesn't say, we need this, and you don't own the organization, you're not the CEO or whatever, you're in it, but you can't say that, then you have to do different things. Just a little tip here is if you have a boss that does not allow themselves to be challenged, there's a sickness in the system, but you still want to work there for other reasons. The comp package is worth it, or the mission's worth it, or it's the right for your family. So it's a crazy situation, but it's not worth leaving for. What you need to do is to appeal to that person's pressure. You appeal to that insecure boss's pressure and say, I'm hearing what you say here about where I'll be spending my time. And I get it, I'm a team player, but I really want to make you successful. And I want to make you look good to the people you're with, because I promise you, he or she has got pressure on them from people above them, and they're feeling that pressure. And just to align with that and say, I know the pressure you've got, and I want to help you here. And so when you appeal to their self-interest and the pressure they feel, that's your best shot at an unconfrontable boss. Just a little side tip there. Then the next one is submit in freedom. What do we mean by submit in freedom? What we mean is, not only do we challenge people in our lives, but there are times when we go, I've said my piece and I don't like where we're going, but you know what? There's nothing immoral, illegal, or fattening about this. I'm going to do it. And really good leaders do that all the time. I have seen CEOs of, billion-dollar companies, just very successful people, when they heard the word from their board, mainly it was their board, that the board spoke, they had the vigorous conversation. They had the, long arguments back and forth, but finally when the board was firm, there's one guy I worked with, he finally said, I hear you guys, and I'm going to do everything I can. I'm not going to sabotage anything because I want you to win. It's not the way I would have gone, but I'll do it. And you can't resent, and you can't backbite. If you're going to be all in, you've got to submit. So learn to salute when the words are clear. Letter E, love differences. Really good leaders are secure as in their authority that they love differences. You know, people in your organization have different kind of styles. They have high energy and low energy, and one's not better than the other. It's just kind of how they're wired. Another one is that some are more extroverted, some are more introverted. Some would just get energy from being with people. Some need a lot of cave time to feel good and all that sort of thing. Some people are very linear and logical. Some people are highly emotional, intuitive. The best leaders are the ones that, they're a big tent. They're a big tent. They just love other people. And what I found is that they attract lots and lots of really good stuff. Their teams are better. Their teams are robust. You know what else? What I found is if you love differences, you will attract people that all have the same mission, the mission of your organization. I mean, there is no, be different from the mission of your organization. That means you don't work here. But they're all aligned on the mission of the organization, but in different ways. You kind of get the Avengers. I like movies. You get the Avengers, and you got Hulk over here, and Captain America over here, and all these people, and they work very, very well because you've got room for them. You're the one that doesn't let stylistic differences in personality get in the way. So don't be the one who says, there is a certain personality type that works here. That's not true. In organizations, that word disruption keeps coming up in the research, guys. You've got to be disruptive, and the only way you can be disruptive is to praise the differences and encourage them. If you've got to have it my way or the highway, you got a problem. Be open to the differences. I got to leave right now because I got to get my white tie and my black tie and my white shirt and my navy jacket so that I can go to my office. No, I'm just joking because I love differences. All right. Letter F, become a Pharisee buster. This is sort of a leadership plus I just think it's a personal and spiritual thing. You know, somebody's got to stand up when the Pharisees are judging people. I don't care if it's Pharisees in your office, Pharisees in your family, Pharisees in your church, in your school, but there are people out there that are condemning people who are weak and vulnerable and having struggles, and somebody's got to stand up against them. Jesus was really angry at the Pharisees, and that's what an adult function is. So if you see somebody being judged or condemned who just doesn't need that, you become the advocate, just like he was, and stand up and say, don't treat them that way. It's a really good thing to do. We need more leaders that'll stand up and not allow that to happen, because if there's anything that'll ruin an organization or a family or a church or a culture of the world, it's the Pharisees. So you get in their face. All right, so here's a discussion question. You just got these 6 skills that create a leader who is an adult, who has these functions, who has authority. Which of these skills jumps out at you? Remember, I believe in neuroscience, and I believe that God invented it, and probably in your head there's this thing what I call the neurological highlighter. One of those kind of stood out and you went, I don't challenge enough, or I'm too rigid, or I don't like mystery enough, or I don't take authority. You picked that one that just your heart looked at and you went, that's me, and how can I grow in that? And your director will help you grow. Okay, so have a vigorous discussion on this.